All right, welcome back to the Four Elements Press LGBTQ Authors Series. Today we are sitting with Josh Vidmar. He is a gay author with a LGBTQ superhero series, and there's a few books in that series, so I'm excited for everyone to learn a little bit about that. And Josh, do you want to introduce yourself here? Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, happy to be here. So I'm the author of the Striker 5 series, or the Fifth Striker, whatever you want to call it. Decided to name it with a Roman numeral because I'm great at naming things. Makes it super easy to find. So yeah, it's a superhero series. The main character is a bisexual man, uh, first dating and then married to a gay male partner. Yeah, so happy to walk through that. No, God, don't let me like devolve into corporate speak. I'm so like with my laptops here, I will devolve into corporate speak if so. Reel me back if that happens.
Well, before we get into the book specifically, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what inspired you to be a writer and to actually pursue writing characters who are in the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in writing. I mean, ever since I can remember, I would write little short stories. I always had grand ambitions of writing for a Star Trek series at some point. Hasn't yet happened, but I discount nothing from happening in this day and age. Um, so I would always write little short stories, and I read a ton, especially growing up, which to my left is basically all of the Star Trek books. Yeah, huge sci-fi fan. I read basically anything from the Star Trek universe's Alien, Star Wars for years and years. Less so with some of the newer universes they've created, but I digress.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
another call. Uh,
One of our advice to new authors is to read extensively in the genre that you want to write in. So you've definitely put in the time there.
yeah, well, not so much in the superhero series, really, or in the superhero genre, just
Ah,
because there really aren't many. At least, well, there are, but I did not find out about them till much later in when I was developing this, which I also have a bit of an odd process, which is when it comes to the stuff that I am writing, like if it's a specific topic, uh, or like I'm looking at a specific superpower or a plot line, I intentionally avoid uh, that material. So
mm,
I'll give you just an example. One of my superheroes, he has the superpower of luck. So he's extraordinarily
okay.
lucky. And when I was writing one of his novellas, Deadpool 2 had come out right around that time. So it had the character of Domino, who is also extraordinarily lucky. And any
Mm.
friends asking me, hey, do you want to go see this? Do you want to go see this? I'm like, I absolutely cannot because I do not want those actions to influence my writing and to, like, I don't want to copy that. I want to come at it from an angle that is entirely my own. So while science fiction, fantasy, horror certainly play into it, and, my back catalog, when it comes to certain things that I know there's going to be influence, I try and actually avoid it, which is a bit odd.
Yeah, I mean that's a good strategy though, for originality and just to make sure that what you're producing is of you. And that's especially important when you're writing your first draft, definitely. Because those ideas you want to like have as very genuine, very natural. A lot of time when we give ourselves that freedom to kind of explore, we stumble upon the best parts of our work. Um, so that's really cool. I respect that. What other kind of advice do you have for, new writers or writers who might have something to learn from your process?
Save everything. Save absolutely everything. one thing that has always helped me, I mean, going back to some of the some of the books that have not yet made it to the press, um, those pieces that even though they aren't final, even though they're rough drafts or just they aren't going to work, save it. I have a scrap folder for every single book. And there have been times when, like, I'll remember writing a particular conversation or like a paragraph from years back that I can, it, whatever those couple of characters are now interacting again, and that material can get repurposed, reused, yeah, into basically where it should belong. So don't you don't have to
Mm,
force something. If it's not working, it's not going to work. And that is okay. But be a data hoarder. Storage is cheap and Word documents are small. So save everything. And, can even be good inspiration for later or good like website content for deleted scenes or short stories. Um, so one of the kind of unique things about this particular series is it is split into three novels and two novella collections. So books one, three, and five are full novels. Two and four are novella collections interspersed with short stories. And some of the material that did not get used or could have made like a good epilogue for the first book or the third book made its way into those later stories. So by saving everything and by uh, well, just by saving everything, I've been able to, at least for me, my perspective, that I've been able to build out the rest of the books in a way that's it feels very rich, very organic, and you get little snippets that maybe they weren't like of they it wasn't necessary for them to be a full thing, but having them on their own, it just adds a little spice to the world.
yeah.
Use spice, it's, it's different in the book world.
No, that's good. Definitely. And sometimes writing in writing characters and scenes that you might have to kind of figure out for different parts in the book um, can inform you just on the character themselves. So don't be afraid to kind of. I had a thought today of in my second book that I'm writing. When I had initially started it, I had kind of all the new characters in a room together, sitting on a sofa, and they were just kind of talking to each other because I was still figuring out where the story was going. So, but putting them all in the same space and making them interact with each other brought out all of their different characters and all of their different like dialogue, quotes or phrases or just voice, their own unique voice, and it's really interesting. So definitely don't be afraid to just write, even if it's not for what you're working on now, because it can always come back and be useful later. And even if it doesn't make it, if it's characters in a room talking, you've brought them to life already. So now you can put them throughout your book and make sure that they're kind of consistent at least.
Yeah, and another piece of advice I give is, I mean, do exactly that. Like, put them in unusual scenarios or even just mundane scenarios. I saw a writing prompt years ago that has stuck with me of what would you do if your main character met the Pope? And
Hmm.
it's this bizarre scenario, but it forces you to think through, would they show deference? Would they be irritated? What would their body language be? What's the setting? Why are they meeting the Pope? Is this like an off chance thing? Are they in Vatican City? Is like it really forces you to analyze everything about that character and the situation. And similarly, like have them go grocery shopping. What happens then?
Yeah. Yeah, and even I mean, you'll learn something. You'll learn something about your characters putting them in these situations if you don't already know what to write. How did you go about kind of planning a series like that? And did you self-publish? How did you publish?
So the first book was, God, it was actually a series of novellas that I self-published on
Mm.
Amazon, which hindsight, probably not the best decision, but here we are. Those first four novellas, I re-edited them into what became the first book. So they got the first overhaul to make them into Striker Five Elements of Change. And that became book one. And while I was doing that, it's a fun world. I like the characters, and I have a penchant for pain with my characters. I like to, well, we all do it as writers. I like to know what makes them tick, so I put them in situations that for the second book of exploring less world endy type situations and just like what happens if one is going to New York City for a cooking class? What happens if one is taking a vacation? What happens if another's just on a standard mission that goes wrong? Um, so putting them in like just very putting them in there every day, let their true characters come through in a way that truthfully they don't in the first book. That they aren't quite the characters that they do eventually become. Um, so while I was writing the second book, that's when I plotted out the rest of the series. So from that point on, I knew the big events. I knew what was going to happen by the end of what would eventually become the Bleeding Blue Sky, the fifth book, the fifth and final book. Um, so I had plotted everything out, and details change, and you do additional research, figure out, okay, how's this going to happen? And of course, characters have minds of their own too, and sometimes just take a left. Uh, but for everything, at least during the second book, I decided, okay, I know exactly where I need to go with this. And I set it up as broad goals. So the third book needs to accomplish these specific things. And then from there, I narrowed it down with specific objectives and actions that let me further refine exactly how the books would go. Same thing with the fourth book, that I knew that th- the fourth book in particular is the main one. It's the only one of the series that demands a sequel. It The others can more or less stand on their own to some degree. They all build on each other, but the fourth one is the only one that was written specifically to demand book five. Um, and each moving piece of it, which is also the title of the book, um, it I had to add a particular seed. I had to say there's a particular phrase that occurs in every single one of them that if you're paying attention, you notice it. And those are the those are the pieces that then lead to book five. And God, book five is a discussion in and of itself. Um, that one was always going to be the book for 2025. And
Okay.
we can get into that in a bit, but it was always going to be a frankly political book.
Yeah, I was, you know, reading about your book on Amazon, and I was going through some of your featured comments too on your socials, and some of them are not gay enough. Some of them are too gay. So I was wondering how you kind of thread that line, and how do you manage politics in your book? I'm really interested. Part of our publishing company and media company is to push boundaries. So show us.
Yeah. Um, so first and foremost, one thing that I always say is the Striker series is a dramedy. It is heart and humor are intertwined that, yeah, it's comedy first because life can be hilarious, unexpectedly so, and it can also be really terrible, sometimes within the same chapter. I mean, every day for the last 4, 5 months, I've been living this that sometimes there'll be a day when it's a really good day, and then something happens right at 4:30, 5 o'clock that just tilts it on its edge. Um, and that's what happens in memory. Yes, I have all of them sitting here. Um, but this particular one is very special because it is also the only one that is written to be like this is a this is a gay story, hands down, and it was meant to be that from page one. Um, so to give you a little bit of background, um, my main character Neil, the titular Striker 5, fifth striker, um, bisexual, married to a man, and his husband Evan grew up gay in the Florida Panhandle, which is a very conservative part of the country. And he was kicked out of the house at the age of 16 after his school found that he was, quote unquote, fighting Reed, being beat up for being seen kissing a boy, his boyfriend at the time. And it being, oh God, I don't even remember what the year was, but like early 2000s, the school called his parents and effectively outed him. And
Mhm.
uh, trigger warning, his dad continued it when he got home,
Wow, yeah.
given half an hour to pack some bags and get out.
Yeah, that's a very real 2025 event that's people are fighting for the right to have at this moment, which is
Yeah. And
just terrifying.
yeah, and I grew up in Orlando up until 2001-ish, somewhere around there. But uh, not necessarily my family, but like those around us were very, very conservative. So I grew up around that extremely evangelical, conservative, not great language. And while I don't think looking back, it was ever a fear, I don't think I was ever at risk of being kicked out of my house. It was a fear, though. So I wrote Evan's story is my personal worst case scenario.
Mm.
So he finds out towards the beginning of this book that his biological father has died of an opioid overdose. And now he is faced with going back and dealing with it. He's had virtually no contact with his biological family. He's still on good terms with his brother, but that's really it. Um, hasn't spoken a word to his mother since the judge gave full custody to his now adoptive mother. Um, so I wanted to know what is it that, how would he react? And how would I react? The answer is poorly, very, very poorly. Does not go well for most of the book. Um, and this one was also really hard for me to write because Neil and Evan, they're, I mean, they're married, and beyond that, one of Neil's superpowers is touch telepathy. So when
Hmm.
they're constantly linking minds, they can basically see into each other's minds, and at certain moments, they can actually merge into a single conscious being for usually just a paragraph or so per book, but um, that's how close they are. And in this book, Evan is pushing Neil away. Like they don't link at all, not until the end. And it's that was hard to write because they're they're my power couple. So when they're not being a couple, it's it was hard. That one was hard, but yeah,
That's a really interesting plot problem to have, though. To have for the whole series this couple who can like link up and kind of be in the same mind, to then going a whole novel and not linking up until the end. Oh my gosh, that's great.
yeah,
Did you at the beginning of writing that novel kind of have that plot line set out?
yes, like it was imperative that they are distanced from each other.
Yeah. And that kind of in our previous or in our last week's interview, we were talking about how we can use gayness as a plot device. And not that that is specific, just because it's specifically a gay couple makes it, the gayness in the plot, but to have the connection of a relationship be part of their power, because that really is part of what gave them a superpower, or made them the heroes that they were. And even if you're a superhero novel can be about a superhero out in the world and heroes for everybody, or a hero in a relationship too.
And I one thing I love about these series is that they're mundane. Like it's not all, and I say that in a good way. Like they're people just trying to live their lives. The tagline I've kind of landed on in the last couple of months is far more human than super. Yes, it's a
Hmm.
superhero dramedy series, but these are people who some of them happen to have superpowers. Um,
Yeah, I like that. I like how you put that, because um, with writing contemporary fantasy, it might not be the flavor of everybody, but I
it is
think the no,
not.
right. And I think, like, as we write, we kind of use these genres to kind of show, to relate to different audiences and readers who might not connect with us as gay men, or connect with our characters as gay or bi characters. Um, but to let people know and remind them that, hey, these are people, their experiences are worth learning about, even if you're not the best superhero fan or best fantasy fan. When characters are written well, of course.
And one th it's the it's a quirk of Neil's that I kind of love. So he is what is called a force class. So he can basically punch and kick things super hard, and he has a good high jump, and that's about it. He has his touch telepathy. Oh, and extreme regeneration, which is a discussion unto itself. But like, he has this hang up where, well, he can't fly, he can't shoot things out of his hands, he can't summon demons or angels or whatever. Like, his friends can. So he's kind of just like, well, I can run, I can jump, but that's it. Kind of lame. So he's not like Superman. He's not Wonder Woman or uh, any of like the other DC or Marvel characters. He's just kind of there. He's doing his job. And he has this very human hang up of kind of being a little jealous of his friends.
Yeah, that's awesome. I the mundane parts of life are probably the parts that people relate to most to. And that's, what people can learn the most from, I think. How characters manage real life is how, we also have learned to manage our lives in ways. Um, did you have any concerns publishing or any hiccups publishing? And then I was interested too, because we do talk about writing craft and how you kind of started the world building around the powers and like the limits of those powers.
What do you mean by hiccups in publishing? Like the logistics or more timelines, timeframes? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like I guess advice for anyone looking to self-publish.
Get an editor, get a formatter early on. The actual, so with the Kindle Direct Publishing, when they say self-publish, it is self. And it is up to you to understand formatting, to get an artist for your cover, to get an editor so that there are as few typos as possible. So help me God, I still find some on occasion. Um, and then to work through formatting that, it, just because you've typed it out on an 8.5 by 11, if you upload it, it's gonna show as an 8.5 by 11, and it's not gonna look good. But to know at least the basics of formatting, whether you're using Word or God, not Abacus, the starts with an A. I'm blanking on the name. Um, Online formatting tool. I'm not going to go into it, but personally, I use Vellum. Um, but there are tools out there to help with formatting, and it's been a process. And so here is the initial version of book one. It's a 6 by 9. It's like unnaturally thin. It doesn't look great. The formatting is kind of all over the place.
Okay.
Like the Yeah, the thing that really gives it away is the fact that it's like half-inch tabs on the paragraphs.
Yeah.
It doesn't, but you go to the same book from this is like the final bout of editing. It's much sleeker. There we go. So not half-inch tabs. It's a little prettier to look at.
Yeah,
Uh,
definitely.
yeah. So just understand the basics of all of that. And the thing that I really wish I had known when I started is that there are so many resources to help, and there are tons of people willing to help. Um, I've learned, uh, well, mostly from stalking Reddit, not as involved as I probably could or should be, but um, yeah, I mean, there are so many resources out there to help you learn and grow all the different parts of it. Um, Another thing with editors and artists in particular, especially in the age of AI, ask others. So if you see somebody who you really like their cover, talk to them, engage with them early on, and to ask them, hey, who did your cover art? Look that person up, see if they're taking commissions. Um, this is a huge, huge issue right now, and I ran into several gaps where I was for the hardcovers. I was looking for a new artist, and it took a while to find one that just didn't produce AI slop. Um,
Really?
so, oh yeah, it's rife right now. It's bad. Uh,
And when were you looking for an artist for that cover? How long ago was the AI craze? How long was that started?
this was about a year ago,
Yeah.
like right in the thick of it. So I had done the paperbacks over the course of several years. God, back in 2017 when I first started, that was the same artist who went through and did all of the paperbacks. And they were a friend, or not growing up, I guess growing up, that I knew back in college. And they did all of the paperbacks, both front and back covers. So when I was looking for a new one who could do all five of the hardcovers, I wanted to make sure I was getting something that was hand drawn, which is really difficult in this day and age. And they may say no AI on their Fiverr profile or whatever. Do not trust it. Read the reviews
Hmm.
because regardless of what they say, they may it may not be the truth. So my strongest suggestion would really be reach out to people on social media, whether that's Threads, Instagram, TikTok. If you see a particular cover you really like, work with, just open up dialogue to the author. Most are really willing to engage and talk through stuff like that.
Yeah. And usually if they have a cover designer, they should be listed in the uh copy on the copyright page of the book if you do have it, or maybe in the ebook too. Uh that So the cover design formatting is definitely a changing environment right now with AI, especially, and a lot of different formatting tools that I've seen online, and even ones that might have been around for a long time, but now they're adopting AI into their systems, which is
Yeah.
interesting, and I don't really know how we like feel about that, but like it's happening. Um, and then how about with the superpower element in the book? How did you kind of set the parameters for what was like possible and not possible, or was it something that changed over time?
So I think the first book is probably the loosest, mostly because I hadn't quite figured everything out. But I mean, with each character, they do have certain limitations. Like, um, if I have somebody who can just like kick or punch or whatever, so like striker, I try and give them a bonus something, whether it's like touch telepathy, like Neil. I'm blanking on anyone else right now. Um, but I try, oh, no, his sidekick has the power of luck. So I try and give them just a little something else, which I love my lucky character because he is intensely neurotic. Like, he is convinced that this is going to be the time that his powers are going to fail him, even though they don't.
Hmm.
But he's just constantly worried that, like, oh, is this the time that I have to I have to train manually so that automatic, in case that fails, I'm still able to succeed. Um, but I have another character who is quite literally ancient beyond time itself. He has existed for multiple eternities, and he does not care for. modern convention, and he underestimates everything, every situation that he walks into. He's just like, yeah, I've seen it before. I'll deal with it. And then, it's, oh no, this is kind of a new variation. I haven't seen this. Oh dear. Um, so trying to keep them in, uh, well, I guess when it comes to like limiting their powers, I try and put myself in their shoes, and which is necessary because the entire series is told through first person. Um, so it is also a lesson in, call it radical empathy. Um, but it forces me to think of how would I approach this situation if I had this experience, that if I were this person, um, what would I do? And forces that it forces the limitation, um, whether it's naturally or unnaturally. And there have been times I've had to reel myself back. So I
Yeah.
just to make it a more realistic story.
I like how you talk about the characters and how their powers kind of by default like give them a quirk about their personality, and it kind of defines their personality in a way that you wouldn't really think. Like, immediately you might think that an unlucky or a super lucky person could be cocky in their luck, but no, he's neurotic about his power failing him. That is excellent. And then, yeah, the character who has had many eternities of life to constantly be underestimating every scenario. But then also, it just speaks to the truth of like every experience is unique in itself. Nothing kind of like repeats in exactly the same way. So you always have to kind of be observant and aware. That's awesome.
And the character with luck, it's exactly why I did not watch Deadpool 2 for the longest time, because Domino is kind of cocky with her powers. She's very like, yeah, it's gonna work out. It'll be fine. So
Yeah,
I did not want that to influence that character.
yeah. It sounds like you did a great job. I'm really excited to read the series. And so have you gotten good feedback from the LGBTQ community specifically about the series?
Yes, the third book has been deemed uh, finally adequately gay. Uh,
Love that. Love that.
I admit, like, I don't have a whole lot of readers, but the LGBTQ plus friends that I do have who have read it, the third book is definitely the one that everyone zeroes in on.
Yeah.
It's also kind of funny because I did a control F of the word gay, and it shows up twice
Yeah.
in the entire book, and yet the entire story revolves around it.
Yeah. Well, that means you're a good storyteller.
I hope so.
While you were writing it, did you have any specific like messages that you wanted to kind of get across to the LGBTQ community, or were you trying to create just an entertainment factor?
Nothing solves a crisis like waffles.
Okay.
And this may just seem like a soundbite at first. It is not. Right now, things are bad. They're really bad, um, and to varying degrees for varying people. Latch on to the things that you can. Don't forget to exist in the moment. That it's okay to enjoy the little things. It's okay to sign off and just tune things out for a little bit. That you need to continue to not let it completely overwhelm. And I pot calling the kettle black. I'm terrible at this. I will, oh my God, me and Reddit need to have a break. It's not healthy. But don't forget to just take a walk if you can. Enjoy that, whatever it is, whether it's working out or a food item, waffles in my case. But just live in that moment, in that space, even just for 5 minutes. It can make a world of difference.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. As writers, I'm sure writing is kind of that space for us in many ways. Um, but even as writers, it's important for us to have a separation too. So, music, being out in nature, we can't forget these things. Um, just for our own mental health. And then things are bad, and our communities are targeted specifically at these moments. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, take a step back. Take a step out of your mind, maybe into a book. And, it sounds silly, but sometimes 5 minutes in a book kind of resets your mind into just a better headspace that you can kind of see things a little bit differently, feel things a little bit less, and that can help you kind of move on with your day. Um, so thank you for being a part of helping create that space for people too. Uh, we need to, well, it's good to know that we have a book in the gay superhero area, LGBT superhero area. It's important that we're kind of in all these genres too, so that we don't kind of get stuck into just one genre or one story, as we see kind of happen with Hollywood and just the gay tragedy. Uh, and it's just that and nothing else. Um, do you What are your publishing uh, goals for the future? Because you mentioned you have some unreleased works.
So I actually have two out of three books of a sci-fi trilogy written. They're done. Probably need a tune up for my current writing style, and I know I have grown as an author, and that's even it's readily evident in the Striker series. The first one is it's good. It stands on its own, but by the time you get to the fifth, it is I the change in my writing style. It's evident. So I have a anyway sci-fi trilogy that is incomplete, but I've got two out of three books written. And then I have a uh, another book, hopefully coming out next year, called The Manual of Unusual Occurrences for Riverton College, Maine. And that one could be classified as a cozy academic horror.
Hmm, I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
And,
so
and that's for next year?
hopefully. Progress has been a little bit slower than I had hoped. Right now, I'm taking care of me. So
Yeah.
if not next year, 27, but it's coming along.
Yeah, what are usually your timelines for from starting to write to actually published?
Oh, that depends. Uh, book one, I would say probably it was about a year. Book two, about a year and a half. The novellas always take a little bit longer. You wouldn't think that, oh, well, it's 6 chapters. How long could it take? Forever, because it's four individual stories that you're trying to, they're also loosely interconnected. So trying to make sure that they work together is important. Plus, the short stories are also like the threads between. Uh,
Yeah.
three, I would say this was another year-ish. or so, probably closer to a year and a half. Oh, this was like right at the beginning of COVID too. Four, they're getting heavy, was about 2 years, I think. Again, novella collection. Plus, it is the one that then demanded five, which, oh, this guy.
Wow.
191,000 words.
Oh
84.
my God. Oh my God. And how long did that take?
By the time I started actually writing it, about 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
It, yeah, no, this one broke me.
Yeah. Yeah, I would need a little bit of a break after that one too.
Um,
That's a great accomplishment though. Congratulations. So that's
Thank
like over, like you have to be coming around like 500,000 words between everything at around or more.
Yeah, it I think might have capped 630 something. I
Oh
forget.
my gosh.
Let's see if I have the file. No, I'm probably not going to be able to find it in time. Please hold.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's fine. I had a compendium file at one point, and we're not going to do that. That's fine. Um, but there's something like, so God. Um, the final audiobook is 21 hours long.
Oh wow. How was that process? Did you record the audiobook yourself?
No, I thought about it. My voice does not match the
Yeah.
character, and that's fine. But I went through ACX, the Audible, Amazon, whatever. You love it or hate it, Amazon is they have some good tools. I have a very complicated relationship with Amazon as a whole, and I feel like I'm selling my soul a little bit. That's neither here nor there. But um, I put the first book up for audition, and I didn't think I'd get any. I'm like, who am I? I'm this scrappy unknown guy who writes in a genre that barely exists. And I got 114.
Oh my gosh.
So I narrowed it down to um, to four groups. Two single, like just them alone, and then two duets. And I wanted specifically somebody who could do the entire series. And that was the driving motivating factor. So yeah, I had some who were like, you know, audiobook veterans who have been doing this for years and years and years, but that I didn't think that they could do the entire series, especially not with what I had planned for all of it. Um, so it was right towards the end. He may have been like 98 or like 100 or something. He came pretty late in. Patrick Boylan is my primary narrator. And I listened to his and just instantly I knew like he rocketed to the top two in the first 15 seconds of hearing him. I was like, that that's Neil. Uh,
That's awesome. That's got
so
to be a really interesting experience.
it was, especially considering that I've met him in person and he's
Ah.
a friend. Um, which is kind of funny because he almost kind of looks like Neil in a weird way.
Hmm.
He's about the same height. Um, but so I mean, instant like that's him. So for the second book, we he works with a couple people that he was like, okay, I here's like three or four people. He got these women to do the recording for the female novellas, and I say, sorry, that's not like red pill female. That's, oh my God.
Oh no, I
Typically,
get
how
it.
it's referred to in the audiobook world is like the male or female voices. I'm just like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, what incel did I just become there for a second? Um, ultimately, I landed with Adriana Gentile, one of his friends. And again, like just I heard her and nailed it right off the bat. Um, so I had uh, I started writing around their voices, which made it a really unique experience, especially for books 4 and 5. So for book 4, I had also brought in um, Melinda Beck, who was my number 2. She was my runner-up for the single part for book 1. And I wrote a novella around her. I was like, I like you so much. I have a character. I'm writing, I have an idea for one for book 4. You are her voice. So I brought her in. And they all did such a phenomenal job. Um, and it all really came together so beautifully in the 5th book, where uh, it's the only one that is a duet narration. So it's Patrick and Adriana, and I absolutely would have had Melinda back in a heartbeat, but the way it was recorded, just the logistics of it wouldn't have worked. We were all in a very, very tiny booth, and it was not the most comfortable experience. It could not have handled another person. Plus, the logistics of flying her out to LA, it wouldn't have worked. So
So when you record, you are all kind of in the same space at the same time?
so only for the 5th book.
Oh, okay.
For the first 4, they do their parts individually. So Patrick would do the uh, male novellas, the male short stories, and then Adriana would do the female ones. Um, largely it was just them like coming in and out, doing it whenever they could. But with the 5th one, because it was a duet, we they had to be there pretty much on the same day. So it made scheduling a lot more difficult. And then because it was a series finale and because the 5th book is so personal, it's a series finale. Like I wanted to be there as part of it. So I actually flew out to Los Angeles for a couple of days and basically oversaw the recording of a good chunk of it. Um, and that was a really cool experience.
Yeah,
Uh,
that sounds really awesome.
we had to skip around a lot just based on schedules or whatever. But and I had like these are the high priority chapters, and I'm sitting there on Patrick's couch, like, nope, go back, do it this way. Nope, missed that one. Take it down a little bit, go a little bit lower. But like I have exactly how every line should be delivered. And with book 5, it's really, really important. Um,
Yeah.
I alluded to this earlier, but it's a heavily political book. I mean, just show the covers. So paperback and hardcover. You've got the guy in the office with the demon over his shoulder, and then the Washington Monument. So the 2 versions of Neil, and one looks like he just struck a deal with the devil.
Mm.
Uh, so uh, book 5 was, I mean, it opens with a critique of the US healthcare system in the most striker way possible. Um, it's a normal day. He's at a normal mission at a Walmart, and mind controlling spores have taken over everyone. It's a whole like Borg situation. It's not great. Um, and he gets into the main spore nexus thing. Roll with me here. And he extracts the um, main victim, culprits, whatever. Um, he's this early 20 somethings kid named Ethan.
Mhm.
And months earlier, Ethan had lost his job. He had passed out on the job. He worked at a nearby manufacturing plant, and I don't think it was mid lighting. And he fainted and taken to the ER. Turns out it was a relatively minor heart condition, easily treatable. But the problem is that he did not have health insurance. His work didn't provide it. Beyond that, he was then saddled with the ER cost, the ambulance cost, and then couldn't afford the treatment, and then no one would hire him. So he discovers, or months later, after he's moved back in with his dad, um, he overhears of a miracle cure in the trailer park and go to Gatorland right near closing, ask for Jared, give him however many hundreds of dollars. No questions asked. He'll give you these little seed pods. You take those for a couple of days, you'll be feeling better in no time. And sure enough, he does. And yes, Gatorland is a real thing in Orlando. It's kind of amazing, very exploitative, but kind of amazing. It's a Florida thing. Um, so he starts taking them. He's feeling great within a couple of days. And he's developing like these little bumps or whatever. It's a known side effect of the spore pods. And one day he gets this overwhelming need to uh, go to work. So he had finally gotten a job at the local Walmart. He's getting back on his feet. He's pretty happy. But he's like, I need to be around a lot of people right now, like right now. So he goes to work. And all those little tiny bumps and freckles that he's developed as part of the side effect explode into trillions upon trillions of spores, infecting everyone and creating a hive mind. So I
Hmm.
don't know if you know much about fungus, but there are actually some that can drive animal behaviors. So that's basically what's happening here. Um, again, I lean into horror in some aspects of this. And when Neil is, when Stryker is linked up and he's touch telepathying with this situation, he learns about this backstory. He's like, this was preventable. None of this had to happen. It's only because he didn't have health insurance and his health insurance was tied through his employer that he's not able to, like, none of this had to happen. And so at the end, he's doing a news interview, and uh, the reporter asks some just like off the cuff, asinine, like not inappropriate, but just like, really, that's what you're focused on kind of question. And he goes, no, this entire thing was preventable. So I'm calling on all congressional representatives of who represent not only this district but all of Florida to immediately address the crisis of rising healthcare costs and predatory insurance practices. This is forbidden for superheroes. It is established very early on in the first book that you do not step outside the lines. There,
Sounds familiar.
yeah,
Sounds like what should have happened like after maybe COVID.
yeah. So it he is severely reprimanded, informally at first, and but this interview sets off a chain of events that informs the rest of the entire book. And well, the reason why there's two of Neil is uh well, there's another version of him. And that other version of him took reform quite a bit further in his universe. And
Hmm.
you explore, you get bits and pieces of why. Um, and it all actually ties back to chapter one of the series. The whole thing
That's incredible.
after chapter one. Um,
Wow.
and this was planned. Well, after the first book, it was planned.
Yeah. Yeah, that is awesome though to kind of have the ending of that of the whole series. Well, 600,000 plus words. And through different mediums, so like novel, novella. Wow, back to the first paragraph in the first book.
Yeah, it's yeah,
It shows you put a lot of time, thought, and just focus on this project. And this informed your coming works too. So that is really exciting to think about as well.
to an extent it has. The academic horror is it's a smaller scale story. It's outside its universe. But yeah, it has definitely informed how I write, what I will focus on. It's I'd never be able to find it, but there's a paragraph I wrote that's like this older building that's been freshly renovated, and it has this new like glass atrium type thing going on, and the way the character describes it is like an axe in its chest. And because it's a horror, like it's a very visceral
Mm,
image. Um, so it's definitely yeah, you're right. It has informed. Uh, there is actually another book that I haven't talked about yet, and that is called Lightning Under the Stars. And that is um, I guess you'd call it a gay romance to an extent.
yeah.
It's the least developed, uh, but it will focus on sort of a cocky DC defense contractor guy. And he develops a relationship with a guy that he inadvertently, the first time he meets, is on a plane. And this particular story was inspired by a plane ride I had from DC to Columbus. Um, it was night, and I could see it. There were thunderstorms, I mean, for hundreds of miles. But since we were above the clouds, you could actually see the stars. So I could see the Big Dipper underneath or like over these like summer orange heat lightning.
Mm.
And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Um, but
Yeah,
in
that sounds beautiful.
but in the book, he would the guy who had the window seat would just be like tapping him on the test chest or tapping him on the shoulder and saying like, "Hey, look out, see this," and he does, and then falls asleep on his shoulder by accident. And then the next day, he's in this new city, and pulls up Grinder, and he's new city, and turns out that that guy was on there and had messaged him, but he wasn't exactly his type, so he kind of like laughed him off and then blocked him. Well, turns out that that guy was also his main client. So,
The twists and turns, wow.
yep. Anyway, now we're off to.
That's exciting to kind of look forward to too. Well, it was incredible getting to know about you and your work. I'm really excited to dive in a little bit more into your novels. And I'm excited to talk with you in the future too about your upcoming works. I do also offer, if at any time you want to come on the channel to do a reading of one of your works, we could always set that up now that we have you in our LGBTQ author directory here. And what I'm gonna do is put all your links for like the Amazon page. I'll put your website down there and then the socials as well. I'll put that in the article for everyone to check out, along with the video. And then I'll send you all that after I get it up. Do you have any messages, any final messages or thoughts for maybe the LGBTQ community or writers in general right now under this delightful regime?
Regime is the right word. Don't give up. And that is so much easier said than done. Um, I'm fighting it every single day in my own small way. Um, but know that you are not alone, that reach out where you can, that if you are feeling overwhelmed or terrified, just remember that there's more. There's an after, there's others who are going through this too. And look for the helpers. They are out there. They may not be obvious, but if there's one thing that our community has thrived at doing, it is queer coding the ever loving shit out of everything that we get our hands on. Look for those codes. They're not obvious to straight people, but you'll know them when you see them.
Yeah. And reach out to us as well if you are struggling. We're here to not only write for the community, but writing is for connection. So don't be afraid to connect with us. We're happy to reach out to readers, happy to talk and connect you with other resources as well. Um, we have a growing list of LGBTQ authors in our LGBTQ authors series on fourelementspress.com. You could check us out there and definitely check out Josh Vidmar. He is he makes really creative and entertaining Instagram reels I've been watching. So check those out. And thank you guys so much for watching. Like, follow, subscribe, and share these videos around to anyone who might need them or might be interested. Thank you guys. Take care.
Thanks.